The kitchen smelled like burnt garlic and my dying dreams. I'd been on my feet for 11 hours, my lower back screaming, fingers pruned from scalding dishwater that never quite got hot enough to satisfy Chef Romano's impossible standards. New Year's Eve at Bellator meant chaos, every table packed with people celebrating futures I couldn't afford to imagine while I scrubbed their plates clean. "Emma, front of house needs backup!" Marco's bark cut through the kitchen noise. My stomach dropped. I wasn't a server. I was kitchen staff, invisible by design, forgettable by necessity. But we were understaffed, and apparently my ability to carry dishes without dropping them qualified me for emergency duty. I dried my raw hands on my stained apron, pulled it off, and tried to smooth my black hair back into something presentable. Pointless. I caught my reflection in the chrome refrigerator. Exhausted dark eyes, uniform wrinkled, the kind of tired that sleep couldn't fix anymore. 23 years old, and I looked decades older. The dining room was a different universe. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over women in designer dresses and men in suits that cost more than my rent. The air smelled like wine and wealth, that particular scent of money I'd never know. I didn't belong here. The invisible barrier between their world and mine might as well have been concrete. "Table 12 needs water," the hostess whispered, shoving a pitcher into my hands. Table 12 sat in the corner. 4 men in dark suits speaking rapid Italian. Business dinner, clearly. The kind where deals got made and fortunes shifted while people like me refilled glasses and disappeared. I approached with my practiced smile. Pleasant, but forgettable. "Water?" That's when he looked up. Dark eyes, almost black in the dim lighting, locked onto mine with an intensity that stopped my breath. He couldn't have been older than 30, but he carried himself like he'd been giving orders since birth. Sharp jaw, perfectly styled dark hair, a suit that whispered power instead of shouting it. His companions kept talking, but he'd gone completely still, studying me like I was a puzzle he'd just decided to solve. "Yes," he said quietly, his voice accented and cultured. "Thank you." I poured with trembling hands, hyper-aware of how close he sat, how his gaze never left my face. The other men didn't even glance at me. I was part of the furniture to them, but he watched like I was the only person in the room. "You're welcome," I whispered, backing away. His hand moved, pulling out a leather wallet. Before I could protest, before I could explain I hadn't even brought their check, he placed $500 bills on the table. "For your service." My brain stuttered. $500. That was groceries for 2 months. That was my electric bill with money left over. That was impossible. I just brought water. I can't." "You can." His fingers pushed the bills toward me. "You look like you're drowning. Buy yourself something that helps you breathe." The words hit like a physical blow. How did he see that? How had he looked at me for 30 seconds and seen the desperation I worked so hard to hide? "Thank you," I managed, my voice cracking. "Thank you, sir." Something flickered in his dark eyes. Satisfaction, maybe. Possession. I grabbed the money and fled back to the kitchen before he could see the tears burning behind my eyes. Before I could question why a stranger's kindness felt more terrifying than anything else. My shift ended at 2 a.m. Chicago in January was brutal. Wind cutting through my threadbare coat, snow turning to slush under my sneakers. The bus stop was deserted, just me and the broken heater inside the shelter. I pulled out my phone to check the time. One new message. Unknown number. My fingers went numb as I opened it. A photo filled the screen. Me, standing at table 12, the angle suggesting someone had been watching from across the restaurant. Below it, a text. "You saw something you shouldn't have. We'll be in touch." The phone slipped from my shaking hands, clattering onto the frozen bench. Across the street, headlights flicked on. A black SUV with tinted windows sat idling in the darkness, watching, waiting. The bus didn't come. I stared at the empty street, my breath forming clouds in the freezing air, checking the transit app for the third time. Delayed. No estimated arrival. At 2:30 in the morning, that meant I was stranded. The black SUV hadn't moved. Still idling across the street, exhaust rising like smoke signals. I couldn't see through the tinted windows, but I felt eyes on me, hungry, patient, predatory. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Every instinct screamed not to answer. I answered anyway. Emma Chen. The voice was distorted, mechanical, stripped of humanity. 23 years old, lives at 2847 Foster Avenue, apartment 4B, works 2 jobs, kitchen at Bellator, overnight cleaning at Morrison Tower, takes the 147 bus home every night. Ice flooded my veins. Who is this? Someone who needs to know what you heard tonight, what you saw at table 12. I didn't hear anything. I just brought water. You served Dante Moretti during a business meeting. You were close enough to listen, close enough to see. That makes you a problem. The SUV's engine revved. My heart hammered against my ribs. I don't know what you're talking about. Please, I didn't. We'll be in touch, Emma. Very soon. The line went dead. I stood frozen, phone clutched in my shaking hand, every shadow suddenly hostile. The SUV's headlights flared bright, and it began moving, slowly, deliberately, toward the bus stop. Toward me. I ran. My sneakers slipped on ice as I bolted down the sidewalk, my breath coming in panicked gasps. Behind me, the SUV accelerated, tires crunching through slush. I cut through an alley, stumbling over trash bags, my coat catching on a chain-link fence. The sound of the engine echoed off brick walls, getting closer. I emerged onto another street, legs burning, lungs screaming. Nowhere to hide, no one to help. Just frozen Chicago, and the vehicle hunting me through the dark. The SUV turned the corner. I was going to die on a street corner at 2:30 in the morning, and no one would even know why. Then, headlights from the opposite direction. A sleek black sedan moving fast, cutting between me and the SUV with precision that seemed impossible. It stopped abruptly, the passenger window rolling down. Dante Moretti leaned across the console, those dark eyes finding mine immediately. Get in. Now. I stood paralyzed, caught between 2 vehicles, 2 kinds of danger. Emma, his voice cracked like a whip. Those men following you? They don't want to talk. Get in. The SUV accelerated toward us, tires squealing. My body moved before my brain caught up. I yanked open the door and threw myself inside. Dante hit the gas before I even got the door closed, the sedan shooting forward with a force that slammed me back against leather seats. Behind us, the SUV gave chase. Seatbelt, Dante ordered, his voice calm despite the speedometer climbing. His hands were steady on the wheel, his expression focused and cold. I fumbled with the buckle, twisting to look through the rear window. The SUV was gaining ground. Who are they? I gasped. People who made a mistake. Dante took a turn at a speed that defied physics, the sedan handling like it was an extension of his body. They thought they could touch what's mine. I'm not. You are now. He made another turn, then another, navigating through streets I didn't recognize. Finally, the SUV's headlights disappeared. Dante didn't slow down, didn't speak, just drove with lethal efficiency until the city's skyline rose around us, downtown, where buildings scraped the sky and people like me didn't belong. He pulled up to a glass tower I'd only seen in magazines. A valet appeared from nowhere, opening Dante's door with practiced deference. Dante circled the car and opened mine, offering his hand. Where are we? My voice came out small, frightened. His fingers closed around mine. Warm, possessive, unyielding. Somewhere they can't reach you, he said quietly. Somewhere safe. He pulled me toward the entrance, and I followed because what choice did I have? Behind us, the street remained empty, but I felt them out there, watching, waiting, hunting. The elevator only had one button: penthouse. I stood in mirrored walls, watching myself next to Dante, exhausted kitchen girl in a stained uniform beside a man who looked like he'd stepped from the pages of a magazine. The contrast was brutal. I didn't belong in his reflection. His hand rested on my lower back, warm and possessive through the thin fabric. He hadn't stopped touching me since I got in the car, guiding, claiming, making sure I couldn't disappear. The doors opened onto a private foyer. Dante unlocked a massive door with both a key and fingerprint scanner, then ushered me inside. I stopped breathing. Floor-to-ceiling windows showcased Chicago's glittering skyline. The interior was all dark leather and exposed brick, minimalist furniture that probably cost more than I'd earn in 5 years. Everything was pristine, controlled, dangerous in its perfection. "Sit," Dante said, gesturing to a couch that looked like it had never been used. I perched on the edge, too terrified to relax. He moved to a cabinet, poured amber liquid into 2 glasses, then crossed back to me. Up close, I noticed details I'd missed in the restaurant: the faint scar above his eyebrow, the expensive watch, the way his shirt revealed the edge of a shoulder holster. He was armed. "Drink." He offered me a glass. "You need it." My hands shook as I took it, swallowed without thinking. The whiskey burned down my throat, stealing my breath. "Easy." His hand steadied my shoulder. "It's not water." "What's happening?" The words burst out of me. Who were those people? What do they want? Dante sat beside me, close enough that I felt the heat from his body. The men at my table tonight. We were discussing business. Territorial disputes, resource allocation. Things certain parties would very much like to disrupt. What kind of business? His smile was sharp. The kind that doesn't involve lawyers or contracts. My stomach dropped. "You're a criminal." "I'm a businessman who operates outside legal frameworks." He took my glass, set both drinks on the coffee table. "There's a difference. I have codes, rules, lines I don't cross. And those men following me? Rivals. Competitors who think you overheard something valuable." His dark eyes locked onto mine. "Did you?" "No." I shook my head frantically. "You were speaking Italian." "I don't understand Italian. I just brought water and left. I swear." His hand cupped my face, thumb brushing my cheekbone. "But they don't. They think you're a liability. Intelligence they can extract or a weakness they can exploit." Terror clawed at my chest. "What does that mean?" "It means you're in danger. Real danger." His voice softened, but his eyes remained hard. "It means I'm offering you protection." "For how long?" His jaw tightened. "Until I've made it clear what happens to people who threaten what's mine." "I'm not yours," I whispered, even as my body leaned into his touch. "Not yet." He leaned closer, his breath ghosting across my lips. "But you will be. I saw you trying to disappear into the walls of that restaurant. Saw you drowning under weight no one else noticed. I gave you that money because something in me recognized something in you. That's insane. Probably." His thumb traced my lower lip. "But I don't let go of things I want, Emma. And I want to keep you safe. Keep you fed. Keep you visible instead of invisible. Keep you mine." "What if I say no?" His smile was dark, beautiful, terrifying. "Then you walk out that door and take your chances with the men hunting you. See how long you survive alone." The choice wasn't a choice at all. "How do I know you're not more dangerous than they are?" My voice came out broken. Dante's hand slid into my hair, tilting my head back to meet his gaze fully. "You don't," he said simply. "But at least I'm honest about what I am." Morning came with a designer dress laid across a chair I didn't remember sitting in. I woke disoriented in a guest room larger than my entire apartment, wrapped in sheets with a thread count I couldn't comprehend. Dante had insisted I sleep, that we'd deal with everything today. I hadn't argued. Exhaustion had pulled me under like a riptide. Now sunlight streamed through massive windows, and the emerald dress weighted like a uniform I hadn't agreed to wear. A note sat beside it in bold handwriting. "Wear this. Car leaves at noon. No please, no question, just expectation." I showered in a bathroom with heated floors and water pressure that actually worked, then slipped into the dress. It fit perfectly. He'd known my size without asking. The realization should have frightened me. Instead, it felt inevitable, like he'd been studying me long before I knew he existed. At exactly noon, Dante appeared in my doorway wearing a black suit that made him look even more dangerous. His eyes swept over me with an intensity that made my skin flush. "Beautiful," he said simply. "Are you ready?" "For what?" "To be claimed." The restaurant was closed to the public. I realized that the moment we entered through a private entrance, bypassing the empty hostess stand. Dante's hand stayed firm on my lower back, as he guided me through dim corridors to a private room in the back. 5 men sat around a large table, older than Dante, ranging from mid-40s to a man who looked like he'd witnessed decades of violence. They wore expensive suits and hard eyes, and their conversation stopped the moment we appeared. The air felt heavy with power and unspoken threats. "Gentlemen," Dante said, his voice carrying effortless authority, "thank you for meeting on short notice." "You said it was urgent, Moretti." The oldest man spoke with a thick Italian accent. "This better be worth our time." Dante's hand tightened on my waist, pulling me against his side. "There's been a threat against someone under my protection. I'm here to make my position clear." Every eye in the room fixed on me. I felt stripped bare under their scrutiny, evaluated, assessed, judged. "Who is she?" another man asked, his gaze raking over me with undisguised curiosity. "Emma Chen." Dante's voice dropped into something cold and absolute. "And as of last night, she's under my personal protection. Anyone who touches her answers to me. Anyone who harms her dies." The silence was suffocating. "That's a bold claim," the oldest man said slowly. "Dangerous even. Taking a civilian under your protection makes her a target, makes her leverage every enemy can use. Let them try." Dante's arm around me felt like steel. "I'm asking you as allies to spread the word through your networks. Emma Chen is off limits. She's mine, and I protect what's mine." "Yours?" A younger man smirked. "What is she to you exactly?" Dante's expression didn't change, but something lethal flickered in his eyes. "Everything she needs to be. That's all you need to know." The oldest man studied us both for a long moment, his weathered face unreadable. Then slowly, deliberately, he nodded. "Very well. The families will be informed. Your girl has our alliance's protection." He paused, his eyes hardening. "But Dante, if she becomes a liability, if she puts any of our operations at risk, that protection ends. Capiche?" "Understood." Dante's voice was granite. "She won't be a liability. I'll make sure of it." In the car afterward, I finally found my voice. "You just painted a target on my back." My hands shook with adrenaline and terror. "You told everyone I exist. Now I'm leverage, just like that man said." Dante pulled me across the seat into his lap, his hands framing my face. "I put a shield around you," he said, quietly, intensely. "There's a difference. Now everyone knows that hurting you means war with me, with my allies, with 5 families who control this city. And if they decide you're worth going to war over..." His thumb traced my trembling lip, Then I'll burn everything down to keep you safe. 3 days later, Dante handed me a set of keys across his dining table. What are these? I asked, staring at the silver metal gleaming against dark wood. Your apartment. He said it casually, like he was offering me coffee instead of changing my entire life. 3 bedrooms, updated kitchen, security system that would make a bank jealous. My stomach dropped. My apartment? I already have an apartment. Had. He corrected, standing and gesturing for me to follow. Past tense. The building was in a neighborhood I recognized. Safe, clean. The kind of place where young professionals lived and children played in small parks. Nothing like the borderline condemned building where I'd been barely surviving. Dante led me to the 3rd floor, unlocked the door to Unit 308, and stepped aside. I walked into a space that looked like it belonged in a magazine. Hardwood floors caught afternoon sunlight streaming through large windows. The furniture was simple but quality, a comfortable couch, a dining table that sat 6, artwork that didn't come from discount stores. The kitchen had appliances that actually matched, countertops without stains or cracks. The lease is in your name, Dante said from behind me. 2 years, paid in full, utilities included. I moved through the rooms in a daze. A real bedroom with a queen bed and soft linens, a bathroom with a tub and water pressure, a 2nd bedroom set up as an office with a desk and bookshelf. In the master closet, I found my clothes. All of them. Hanging neatly, organized by type and color in a way I'd never bothered with before. You moved my things. My voice came out flat, shocked. Without asking. Your old building had 3 break-ins last month. Your lock was broken. You told the landlord twice and he never fixed it. Dante leaned against the doorframe. You were living in a death trap. I fixed it, by stealing my life. I spun to face him, anger finally cutting through the shock. You don't have the right. I have every right to keep you safe. His voice remained calm, infuriatingly reasonable. And you weren't safe there. What about my jobs? The question came out desperate. I need to work, Dante. I called both places, gave your notice. You'll receive severance pay, more than fair given your circumstances. The room tilted. You quit my jobs for me? You were working yourself to death for barely enough to survive. He moved closer, and I backed against the closet wall. 2 jobs, opposite shifts, no sleep, no life. That's not living, Emma. That's drowning in slow motion. That was my choice. My voice cracked. My life to live however I wanted. And now you have a better one. His hands came up to frame my face, gentle but unyielding. You can go back to school. Sleep full nights. Eat real food. Stop destroying yourself for scraps. I don't want your charity. This isn't charity. His eyes burned into mine. This is me taking care of what's mine. Learn the difference. I'm not yours, I whispered, but the words sounded hollow even to me. Yes, you are. His thumb traced my cheekbone. You just haven't accepted it yet. He left me standing in that beautiful apartment, surrounded by my relocated life, with keys to a cage dressed as freedom. That night, I tried my old apartment. The locks had been changed. Dante hadn't been lying. I called both my jobs. They confirmed I'd resigned with glowing recommendations and generous final checks. I sat alone in expensive silence, staring at Chicago's lights through windows I hadn't earned, and realized the truth that made my chest tight. I had nowhere else to go. Dante hadn't just offered protection. He'd eliminated every exit. I lasted a week before I couldn't stand the silence anymore. The apartment was beautiful, comfortable, suffocating. Dante visited daily, bringing takeout, checking security, making sure I was adjusting. But I wasn't adjusting. I was rotting in luxury, waiting for permission to live. So I left. Just a coffee shop 3 blocks away. Just a newspaper with job listings circled in pen. Just an attempt to prove I still had autonomy, still had choices, still existed outside of Dante Moretti's carefully constructed cage. The barista had just handed me my latte when the door opened and 2 massive men in dark suits walked in. They positioned themselves at the entrance. Not sitting, not ordering, just watching. My hands went cold. Then Dante appeared. He moved through the cafe like a storm front, his face carved from ice, fury radiating from every line of his body. He reached my small table and placed both palms flat on the surface, leaning down until his face was inches from mine. You left without security. His voice was quiet, deadly. You walked out of that apartment alone. I went for coffee. You made yourself a target. His eyes blazed. Do you think they've stopped looking? Stopped planning? You're the easiest way to hurt me, Emma, and you just walked out into the open like you're invisible. I can't live like a prisoner. The words burst out too loud. Other patrons turned to stare. Dante's jaw tightened. You'll live however keeps you breathing. Before I could respond, the world exploded. The car parked across the street detonated in a fireball of twisted metal and shattered glass. The cafe windows blew inward. People screamed. Heat and smoke rolled through the air. Dante's body slammed into mine, taking me to the ground, his weight crushing and protective as glass rained down around us. His arms caged my head, his chest pressed against mine, his breath harsh against my ear. Stay down, he growled. My ears rang. Smoke burned my throat. Through the chaos, I heard Dante speaking rapid Italian into his phone, issuing commands with lethal precision. His body never left mine, a human shield between me and whatever danger lurked outside. Finally, he pulled back enough to check my face, his hands roaming over me frantically. Are you hurt? His voice cracked with something raw. Emma, answer me. Are you hurt? No. I couldn't stop shaking. What was that? A message. His expression turned glacial. They're testing me through you, proving they can get close. He hauled me to my feet, keeping me behind him as his security detail surrounded us. They moved as one unit, weapons drawn, scanning every corner, every shadow. They escorted us to a waiting SUV with military efficiency. Inside the vehicle, Dante's control finally fractured. This is why you don't leave without protection. He gripped my shoulders, his fingers digging in. This is why every rule I give you matters. They just tried to kill you to make a point. How many? My voice came out broken. How many enemies do you have? His laugh was bitter. Enough that you're never safe unless I make you safe. Back at my apartment, 4 armed men took positions in the hallway. Dante walked through every room, checked every window, engaged every lock with brutal efficiency. They stay, he said, gesturing to the guards outside. 24 hours. You don't leave without calling me first. You don't go anywhere without security. Understand? For how long? The question came out desperate. When does this end? Dante crossed to me, framed my face with both hands. When you stop being the easiest way to hurt me, he said quietly, intensely. Or when every enemy I have is dead. His thumb brushed my trembling lip. Whichever comes first. 3 weeks of captivity in a gilded cage. 3 weeks of guards outside my door. 3 weeks of Dante arriving with gifts I didn't want. Expensive clothes, jewelry that felt like shackles, books I was too restless to read. 3 weeks of pretending this was protection instead of possession. I finally broke on a Tuesday. Dante arrived with dinner from some restaurant I'd never afford, his presence filling my apartment like it always did. He set the bags on the counter, started unpacking containers with that casual assumption of welcome that made my skin crawl. I enrolled you in classes at Northwestern, he said conversationally. Spring semester starts in 2 weeks. I wasn't sure what you wanted to study, so I left the schedule flexible. Stop. He paused, a container of pasta halfway to the counter. Stop pretending this is normal. The words exploded out of me. Stop bringing me things and making decisions and acting like you're my... I couldn't even find the word. I can't work, can't see friends, can't leave without permission. I'm not living, Dante. I'm just existing in a prettier cage. He set down the food slowly, deliberately. You're safe. I'm dying, I screamed, and suddenly I couldn't stop. I'm suffocating, I'm rotting. You took my life and replaced it with this museum exhibit where I'm the artifact behind glass. You visit, you check on me. You make sure I'm fed and comfortable, but I'm not a person anymore. I'm a thing you own. Silence crashed down after my outburst. Dante stood perfectly still, his dark eyes unreadable. Are you finished? His voice was quiet. No. Tears burned down my face. You want to keep me safe? Fine. But I can't be kept like this. I can't breathe. I can't... What do you want, Emma? He cut through my words like a blade. Really want. Not the speech about freedom and autonomy. What do you actually want from your life? The question disarmed me completely. My voice cracked. I wanted to finish school. I wanted to stop working myself to death just to afford rent. I wanted to walk home without being afraid. I wanted to matter to someone, to be seen instead of invisible. Then let me give you that. He crossed to me and I backed against the counter. Let me pay for school. Let me make sure you're safe. Let me fix what's broken. It's not the same. Why not? His hands came up to frame my face, forcing me to meet his eyes. Because it comes from me? Because accepting help feels like surrender? Because I don't know what you want in return. The confession burst out. You give and give and give, but what do you get from this? Why do you care? His expression shifted, something raw breaking through his control. You, he said simply. I get you. My breath caught. Willing, safe, mine. That's all I've wanted since I saw you trying to disappear into those restaurant walls. His thumbs brushed away my tears. I saw someone fighting so hard to survive that she forgot how to live. I saw exhaustion and strength and stubborn pride, and something in me said, keep her. That's insane, I whispered. Probably. His forehead pressed against mine. But I'm not a good man, Emma. I've killed people, destroyed lives, built an empire on violence and fear. But I'm good to what's mine. And you, his voice dropped to something almost reverent. You're mine to protect, to provide for, to keep. The honesty in his eyes terrified me more than any of his threats ever had. Because part of me, the exhausted, desperate, touch-starved part, wanted exactly what he was offering. The call came at 3 a.m. I was still awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying Dante's confession in my head when my phone lit up. Sophie's number. Relief flooded through me. My best friend since college, the one person I'd been forbidden to contact for security reasons. I grabbed the phone. Sophie, thank God. Emma Chen. A man's voice, cold and amused. Your friend says hello. Well, she would if we hadn't gagged her. Ice flooded my veins. What simple exchange, you for her. Moretti's whore for your innocent friend. Seems fair, doesn't it? Background noise, muffled crying, Sophie's voice trying to scream through fabric. Don't hurt her. The words ripped from my throat. Please, she has nothing to do with... Warehouse on Ashland and 31st. 2 hours. Come alone, or we send her back in pieces. The line went dead. My hands shook so violently I almost dropped the phone. Sophie. They had Sophie because of me. Because I was visible now, claimed. A weakness they could exploit. I was halfway to the door when it burst open. Dante stood in the threshold, fully dressed despite the hour, his phone pressed to his ear. His eyes locked on mine with laser focus. "Stay exactly where you are," he said quietly, then returned to his call. "I want every available man. Full tactical. I don't care what they're doing. Pull them now." "They have Sophie," I gasped. "They want to trade me for—" "I know." He ended his call, crossed to me in 3 strides. "My people intercepted the communication. We're already moving. They said 2 hours. They're lying." His hands gripped my shoulders. "It's a trap designed to make you panic, make you run to them, make me choose between protecting you and saving her." "Then what do we do?" Tears burned my eyes. "She's my friend, Dante. She's innocent. We get her back." His voice was absolute, non-negotiable. Within 20 minutes, my apartment transformed into a war room. Men in tactical gear moved with lethal efficiency, checking weapons, reviewing building schematics on laptops. Dante stood at the center, issuing orders in rapid Italian and English, every inch the commander I'd only glimpsed before. This wasn't the man who brought me dinner. This was something else entirely. Something cold and brutal and terrifying. "I'm coming with you," I said. Every head turned toward me. The room went silent. "Absolutely not." Dante didn't even look at me. "You stay here with security." "She's my friend. This is because of me." I stepped forward. "I'm not sitting here while you don't get to pay for my wars." He finally met my eyes, and what I saw there made my breath catch. Fury and fear in equal measure. "This is my world, Emma. My violence, my consequences." "Then let me face them with you." Something shifted in his expression. Surprise, maybe. Respect. "You stay behind me," he said finally. "You do exactly what I say. You don't argue, don't hesitate. Understand?" I nodded. The warehouse was abandoned, hollow, perfect for an ambush. Dante moved through the darkness like death itself, silent, precise, absolutely lethal. His men flanked us, weapons drawn, communicating through hand signals I didn't understand. Then, Sophie's scream. Everything happened in seconds. Dante's team moved like choreographed violence. Gunfire erupted. Men shouted. I crouched behind a concrete pillar where Dante had shoved me, hands over my ears, trying not to see the bodies dropping. When silence finally fell, Dante emerged from the shadows covered in blood that wasn't his, dragging Sophie behind him. She was crying, terrified but alive. He'd kept his promise. He'd burned it all down to keep his word. Sophie was safe. Dante had called people, doctors, his personal security, someone to take her somewhere protected until the threat was neutralized. She'd hugged me, crying, terrified, asking questions I couldn't answer. Then she was gone, and I was alone in my apartment with a man covered in blood. I couldn't stop shaking. My hands trembled, my teeth chattered. Adrenaline crash, probably, but it felt like my body was finally understanding the violence I'd witnessed. The casual brutality, the way Dante had moved through that warehouse like an angel of death. "Emma," his voice cut through my spiral. "Look at me." I couldn't. My gaze stayed fixed on the blood splattered across his white shirt, his hands, his face. "Bathroom," he said quietly. "Now." I followed on autopilot. He peeled off his jacket, his holster, set his gun on the counter with practiced ease. Then he turned on the shower and stepped under the spray fully clothed, letting water turn pink as it washed away evidence of what he'd done. Finally, he stripped down to nothing, completely unself-conscious, and scrubbed blood from his skin like it was routine. Like this was just another Tuesday. Because for him, it was. How many? The question escaped before I could stop it. He paused, water streaming down his back. "How many what? How many people have you killed?" Silence stretched between us, broken only by running water. Enough. He turned to face me, his dark eyes meeting mine without shame or apology. Enough to build what I have. Enough to protect what's mine. Enough to keep you alive. Does it bother you? My voice cracked. Do you ever? No. The answer was simple, honest. I sleep fine, Emma. I don't lose sleep over eliminating threats. That's what you need to understand about me. I'm not conflicted. I'm not secretly good underneath. I do what needs doing, and I don't apologize for it. I should have been horrified, should have run screaming, should have called the police, demanded protection from him instead of by him. Instead, I asked, why me? He turned off the water, grabbed a towel, wrapped it around his waist. Then he crossed to where I stood, frozen in the doorway. You looked at me like I was human, he said quietly, cupping my face with still damp hands. Everyone else sees a monster or a god, someone to fear or use or destroy. You just saw a man. His thumb brushed my lower lip. That night at the restaurant, you were exhausted, drowning, invisible to everyone around you. But you looked at me, really looked, and didn't flinch. Didn't calculate what you could get from me. Didn't try to make yourself smaller. His forehead pressed against mine. You just existed, honestly. And I wanted to keep the girl who could see me like that. Even if she's terrified of what you are, I whispered. Are you? Terrified? I searched my feelings, expecting fear, finding something else entirely. No, I admitted. Not anymore. The words stuck in my throat. I'm tired of fighting. Tired of being alone. Tired of pretending I don't need someone to keep you. He finished. Not a question. I nodded, something breaking loose in my chest. Then let me, he murmured against my lips. Stop fighting. Stop resisting. Let me keep you, Emma. Let me make you mine in every way that matters. The last of my resistance crumbled. Keep me then, I whispered. His kiss was claiming, possessive, absolute. He kissed me like he was staking territory, like my mouth belonged to him and he was simply taking what was already his. I surrendered completely, hands fisting in his wet hair, body pressing against his, every defense finally destroyed. When he pulled back, we were both breathing hard. Say it, he demanded. Say you're mine. I'm yours, I whispered, and the words felt like freedom and captivity in equal measure. His smile was devastating. Good girl, he murmured. My good girl. 2 months later. I woke to sunlight streaming through windows I'd stopped thinking of as foreign. My apartment, truly mine now, in ways that had nothing to do with whose name was on the lease. Dante's side of the bed was empty but still warm. I heard him in the kitchen, the smell of coffee drifting through the open door. This was my life now. Classes at Northwestern 3 days a week, literature and business, because Dante had asked what I actually wanted to study, and then made it happen. Security that followed at a distance, present but not suffocating. Evenings with a man who killed people, and then came home to cook dinner with me like it was normal. And somehow, it had become normal. You're thinking too loud, Dante said from the doorway, holding 2 mugs. He wore dress pants and a half-buttoned shirt, his hair still damp from the shower. Beautiful and dangerous and mine. Someone at school asked about you yesterday, I said, accepting the coffee. About my boyfriend who picks me up in expensive cars with armed drivers. His eyes sharpened. What did you tell them? That you're protective. I took a sip, watching him over the rim. That you take care of me. And? He sat on the edge of the bed, his hand finding my knee through the blanket. And she asked if I was afraid of you. Silence stretched between us, heavy with unspoken truths. Are you? His voice was quiet, careful. Afraid? I thought about the question honestly. About the man who'd eliminated threats without hesitation, who'd claimed me publicly, eliminated my choices, rebuilt my life according to his vision, who carried a gun and commanded loyalty through fear and respect in equal measure. No, I said finally. I'm not afraid. I searched for the right word. Protected, provided for, seen. Something softened in his expression. You didn't answer her question, did I? I told her you're not my boyfriend. His hand tightened on my knee. I told her it's more complicated than that. What would you call this? He gestured between us. What we are. I set down my coffee, reached out to touch his face. This man who'd stolen my life and given me a better one, who'd trapped me and set me free in the same breath. You're the person who keeps me safe, I said quietly. Who makes sure I don't drown. Who saw me when I was invisible. Who gave me everything I was too afraid to want for myself. His hand came up to cover mine, pressing my palm against his jaw. And you're mine, he murmured. For as long as you'll have me. That's not how this works. I smiled despite myself. You don't let go, remember? You told me that the first night. No, I don't. He pulled me into his lap, settled me against his chest where I fit perfectly. I'm selfish and possessive, and I intend to keep you for a very, very long time. That's intense, I whispered, echoing words I'd said months ago. You knew what I was when you said yes. His lips brushed my temple. When you stopped fighting, when you let me keep you. He was right. I had known. Some part of me had recognized him that very first night. The danger and the safety he represented, the cage and the freedom, the possession that felt like devotion. I'd spent years invisible, drowning, working myself to death for scraps of survival. And then a mafia boss had looked at me across a restaurant and decided I was worth keeping. He'd eliminated my choices, yes, but he'd also eliminated my fears, my exhaustion, my desperate solitude. Was it love? Obsession? Stockholm Syndrome dressed in expensive clothes? I didn't know. Maybe I never would. But wrapped in Dante Moretti's arms, claimed and kept and protected, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. I felt like I mattered. And for a girl who'd spent so long invisible, that was everything. Keep me, I whispered against his lips. His smile was beautiful and possessive and absolutely devastating. Always, he promised. And I believed him.